This is COM 430 Group 9. Please discuss with your group members situations in which you have employed the various sources of power and influence referenced by Hackman and Johnson. Further, work to tie those experiences to your role as a leader or as a follower.
I've had a skip supervisor or leader use the, I can't say this word, coercive power as a source of power. I have never really employed this myself. I was just saying that she used the, I can't say this word, coercive power.
Coercive.
Thank you. Because I had to go to the restroom, and I remember she got really upset because it wasn't when I was like on a break, but I had to go to the bathroom. And she was like, okay, well, you can just go on a break. And then she sent me home early, and I was like completely cut my hours and everything. And it was definitely not a good situation. But as far as me as a leader, I try to employ both the reward power and referent power. As far as like when I run my shifts at my store, especially when people like I notice they're working hard, I want to reward them. Like if it's like a busy day, I want to give them an extra 5 minutes off the floor so they're not stressed out. And for referent power, I feel like because I'm so hardworking, people see that and they want to work hard on my shift as well, and kind of like do the same that I do for them. As far as influence goes, I feel like with my credibility for my competence, I am a barista trainer, so obviously I train everybody at my store, so it shows my my competence. I'm trustworthy because people always talk to me. I never go around telling other people at my store what they tell me. And then I'm seeing that for my credibility, like as far as like having that be a key to successful influence, just like the 3 different categories and stuff. So if you guys want to talk now, because obviously you can't hear me.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'll just make a couple of comments as far as my current role goes as a people manager. I'm responsible for managing people across the country. I've got about 23 people total reporting to me. So, as a people manager, really leveraging a number of different power elements. There's coercive power just because I have the ability to impact people's pay. I have the the ability to impact their salary, their overall employment, whether or not they stay employed. So all of that kind of goes to coercive power because I do have the power to, fire somebody if they're not doing a good job. Same goes for reward power, right? The opposite of that is I have the opportunity to give promotions to people who earn them. I have the opportunity to give larger bonuses to people who work harder and produce more. So from a legitimate power standpoint, my role within the company gives me that legitimate power where, for lack of a better word, I am the boss. So that comes with its own legitimate power, meaning that for better or for worse, what I say goes because I'm the boss, and if I give a directive and it's not followed through with, then there are consequences for that. From an influence standpoint, the first thing I thought of here was when I very first became a manager early on in my career. I was 21 years old. I had just turned 21 years old when I first became a manager. I was at a Fortune 500 company, very large organization. I was the youngest manager by far in the organization, and most of the people who worked on my team at the time were older than me, but not just older than me. Many were much older than I was. So I had to build take some time to build trust with this team and get folks to the point where they respected me as their leader, right? I think the thing that really helped me early on with that was building credibility through competence. The one thing that I was running a call center collections team at the time, and the one thing I had going for me was I had already been a top collector for 2.5 years before I started managing this team, and I was able to share a lot of what made me successful with the folks on my team, and that helped them then become successful as well. And as soon as they started realizing that my ideas and tactics worked, I think I started getting a lot more of their buy-in. And then the other thing I had tried to do from the very beginning is build trustworthiness by just being open and honest with people, having honest conversations, following through on commitments that I make to people, showing that I was there for them to help them get better as individuals, and do the best that they can. The one thing that I think I struggled with is being a dynamic leader. I lacked self-confidence because of my age, because of the lack of respect or credibility I think people showed me early on. I kind of lacked my own skills to begin with, and that took some time to develop. Obviously, 13 years later, I've built that confidence in myself and can act more dynamically as a leader today.
From my standpoint, what I thought it was interesting as I was reading the chapter is that there's a lot of times that this type of powers, they go hand in hand. For example, what James was saying about the coercive and the reward power. If you have the power to take somebody's pay away, then you're using both, It's like, for me, I'm a scheduling manager at my job, so I can, when people are not showing up for their shifts on time, and if they do it a certain amount of times, I can take their hours away. And that, in a way, is using coercive power. But I also reward those who always show up on time and are always there, and I give them an extra day off with pay if they do that for 2 months in a row. So that's also a reward power, while at the same time punishing those who didn't do that. So a lot of those powers come hand in hand. Talking about the expert power, I think that's really interesting too, because I've been with my company for a while. And also because of
I'm a manager, I'm an office manager, and I kind of have this funny position. I have the title of office manager, but it's almost a position when it's most convenient for my employer. So she uses it when she doesn't want to tell somebody what she doesn't like about what they're doing, then it's my job to do that. Or when it's time to fire somebody for something totally ridiculous, then I get to go in and say, hey, it's just not working out. And so she's kind of abuses her power in that kind of way. She's also a type of person that uses the coercive power. I think that can be a good and a bad thing. Where I'm at, not particularly for me, because I have this tactic knowledge that she needs. I have the know-how of the business that I think I even know more about how the business end of things are run than she does, and so she kind of needs me there sometimes. It's a good spot for me, but for everyone else, there's really no room for error. So it's kind of an unsaid or unspoken guidelines that everyone follows, because they know if they mess up, then the consequence is probably going to be you're fired, because that's just what happens. But for me, like I was saying, I have that tactic knowledge, which sort of is my strong PowerPoint, I guess. I like to have the expert knowledge, so I like to be the person who knows everything there is to know, and I usually go out of my way to gather all the knowledge, because by knowing everything, then I sort of have the upper hand in a lot of situations. I kind of like having that position. But I also try to employ the reward power. I really try to give people that work under me now positive reinforcement. It's really important, especially at the place I work. With all the negativity that can come from my boss, I really try to recognize people when they're doing a good job. And so it's not so much
already 11 minutes, guys.
You get an extra day off, but it might be you get to work extra if you want to, or I really appreciate you and you're doing a great job. So that's kind of
Okay, I'll make mine quick. I don't have right now like a situation where I'm at. I'm a freelance designer, so I'm really in charge of myself. Um, the only real, I guess, experience you could say I had with power would be in sports, where you're set as a captain and you're kind of um, you have a little bit of the legitimate power where it's sanctioned, it's approved by the team, and then you kind of carry the face of the team. Um,
What sport
um,
did you play, Zach?
Hockey.
Hmm.
So when you're dealing with a tough situation, there's a bad call on the ice, or there's something that you don't like, and the coach communicates it through you, and then you're now the face of the team, and you go to the ref and you kind of discuss that. So that's somewhat of a legitimate power. I also think it could be part of the reward power, whereby just working hard and leading by example and kind of showing, day in and day out what is expected. I guess that could be considered it. And then the credibility would just, I would say, be being trustworthy, talking to players, have a bad game, or just bringing up the self-confidence, self-presentation. So presenting yourself in a calm manner, the confidence. That's about the extensiveness of my taste of power, I guess you could say. Otherwise, I'm basically really in charge of just me as an individual with